Welcome back. So yeah, now I'm kind of excited because we're actually gonna jump into how to implement some of these cool advanced features that are available in Windows 8.1.
Yeah, and again, these are the features that you want to harness because you're going to that platform. It's going to help your app, your game sort of fit the environment that you're selling it in and stand out above the rest. Otherwise, you're going to look like a lesser product on that store, and you don't want that on any platform that you ever push to. So these are really the important parts of this porting.
Yeah, exactly. And we're actually going to look at one that you must do in order to get into the store,
Again.
as well as ones that you would probably like to do in order to help differentiate yourself.
That's right.
In the store.
Some of them are technical certification requirements that you have to meet and that kind of stuff. Yep.
Okay, so the overview for what we're going to do here is we're going to take a quick look at Unity and Windows 8. We'll take a look at creating the actual build. So we'll jump into Unity. I'll show you how to actually build this Visual Studio solution. And then we'll talk about implementing some advanced features like using share. We'll talk about how to handle the screen size changes, which is one of the certification requirements, is that you actually handle the change in screen size. And then we'll take a look at how to handle app visibility changes. And by that I mean when your app is no longer in focus.
That's right.
So quickly, I'm just going to show you, I'm sure a lot of you out there have seen Windows 8 in action, but I thought it might be good to highlight some of these things so that you know when we're talking about it, exactly what it is that we're trying to show you. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead here and I'm just going to open up my desktop and we'll show you a little bit about what's going on in, there we go, I forgot to close PowerPoint out. Is that better there? There we go. Awesome. So now you can see my desktop here and my beautiful background and everything. And the first thing you're going to notice right off the hop is the tiles. This is the new layout that came out in Windows 8 and has been extended in Windows 8.1. And basically what this allows you to do is have things like live tiles. And what live tiles do is they show you updated information right there on your start screen.
What's that amazing game you have in the top left corner?
I don't know. I think we're going to show that in a little bit. So you can see right away that I'm like, if you look here, I've got my sports tile, and it's showing me what's going on in the sports world. Of course, I've got my beautiful weather app here, and of course, this is in Celsius, just so everyone knows. You're not freaking out like, oh my God, it is really cold there in Redmond. This is actually in Celsius because I'm Canadian, and that's how we tell our temperatures. So yeah, it gives your users that information right before they even have to launch their app. So it's a good way to keep your users engaged and draw them in. Right? So it's definitely, it's one of my favorite features. I'm the type of person that I want to know the information and I want to move on, right? So it's really good. Like I love the fact that you can actually see messages right up there in your email, so like, oh, is that an important message? I should probably check it, right? So, things like that. It's a good feedback for the user.
And for the game developers, I mean, it's another social. We're a little bit more used to getting into that social area, getting the user the information they need to know, because we do that on a constant basis. We've had friends lists in the game world and achievements and so on for a couple generations now of consoles and everything like that. And this is just going to be another way for us to present some of those key information or tidbits of information that we want to get to the user without them even needing to run the game or get into it. They can just be like, oh, darn, somebody beat my high score. I should go back on there or whatever, or so-and-so's playing this game. There's so many different ways that we can now use these tiles to enhance the experience of the game even before anybody's in the actual game itself. And it's something that a lot of developers haven't really used to the full creative potential that I know will happen over the next couple of years as this kind of a platform spreads and using it and porting to it becomes more and more key. You'll see how they use these tiles and what information that is shared and shown comes up there. It'll be quite interesting to see all those different.
Yeah, and in fact, later on in one of the later modules, we're going to actually show you how to build your own live tile. And what we're going to do is we're going to share the high score information, right? So like you said, it's great for that. It's great for achievements and stuff. Mm-hmm. It's just really nice to interact with your users in a simple way. So another thing I'm going to show you here is I'm going to pop open my charms here on the side. And the first one that you see at the top here is the search. Now, the one thing that I really like about the search is it searches everywhere. It searches on the web, it searches on your computer, and it searches other apps. This is fantastic. I use it all the time when I'm trying to find a document or I'm looking up something on the internet. You know, it's all powered by Bing. It searches, you know, contextually too, right? So.
And there's a shortcut to get to it. You don't even have to do the swipe over to the.
No, actually, I did the shortcut there. I did the Windows C to bring open my charm, right? So that's really good. And, you know, some of the things that you might want to do with that as a developer of a game is, you know, I always like to say like the RPG, right? So it's nice to see, you know, maybe Bobby connects with you and says, oh, I got this wicked sword in this RPG game, and now you can search and see detailed information about that sword right from inside the game.
Right, so you could just type in epic bug hammer, and then you find it and smash away. That'd be great.
Yeah. So it's one thing that, you know, you can use in certain aspects of your game, right?
Yeah, so it's effectively a built-in system or a database system, right, in that people can, if you expose it properly, they'll be able to get into your game, find out information about all those gear and items and achievements even, and so on, with a touch of the button, before they've even entered into the game itself.
Maybe you want to know, did I get that achievement, right? So now you can search and it'll show you, you know, that achievement. You can click on it and it'll launch your game. So it's one other way for your users to get engaged with your game and get into your game.
That's right.
So I'll bring open my charms again here. And the next one I'm going to show you is the share. Now I'm super excited about this one, right? Being an indie developer, I know if you're not on social media, you're going to have a hard time, right? And so this is built right into the OS. You're able to share directly from your game into other apps.
That's right.
Right? So if I wanted to, and we're actually going to show you this a little bit later on, if I wanted to share my high score, say, on Twitter, right? If I have the Twitter app installed, I can go on to my share here. I can click, you know, on share an event, right, or a high score, picture, whatever it might be, a screenshot.
Yeah, screenshot of my character with my new epic loots.
Yeah, you know, you got this wicked headshot in a first-person shooter, and you want to show all your friends.
There you go.
You can do that. You can post it right to Facebook.
I could send it to the friend I just.
Exactly,
all right.
You can put, you know,
I don't even have to go over.
Postcard.
I don't even have to go over and teabag him and let him see that. I could just send him the image of it so that he sees it. That's great.
Exactly, yeah. So it's definitely a fun thing to use inside of your games, and we're going to actually show you how to not only set it up so that your game can share from the charm, but we're going to show you how to do it inside of the game so that your game actually calls this share charm. So that's a really cool feature that I just absolutely love about Windows 8.1. So I'm going to jump back into my slides here. You know, that's just a quick overview. Lets you see what you can do with it. We'll dive a little bit deeper into the live tiles and again the share track setup and stuff like that. So see if I can get back in here easily and not lose my spot.
Shift F5.
Okay, so that was a little bit about the features that we're going to try to support. You know, obviously Unity, Windows 8, 8.1, the Windows Store really offers an amazing opportunity for us developers, right? You're going to have the chance to reach a brand new market that's new and emerging, right? It's growing in popularity each day, so it's really nice. You're not going to get buried under a bunch of other apps that, you know, you might have on other platforms,
that's
right?
True,
so that's the good thing, you know, it's nice. The submission process is very friendly when it comes to the Windows Store.
Actually, yeah, the feedback that you get, as I
it's
find,
fantastic.
Because, and again, I don't work for Microsoft in any capacity. I'm just here with this event as a co-presenter. But when I put apps in and develop in that, you do get a quite more detailed feedback, or here's exactly what went wrong, or here's what part of the submission you failed at, and so on. And there's a checklist even that's automated that you ping through and see everything that passed. And then the human user also does a test of it and then gives you feedback or tells you what went wrong. That part of the submission process is very clean, much cleaner than some of the other ones that I've had to deal with before, and much more straightforward. And that feedback is definitely appreciated on the developer side of things, which is really nice.
Yeah, I love that they don't just rubber stamp and say you failed, good luck, right? They actually give you some feedback and let you know why you failed and kind of point you in the right direction, so to speak.
Yeah. Throw you back into the void.
Yeah, exactly. So, targeting the Windows Store also gives you the advantage of targeting multiple devices at once, right? So you're targeting the tablets like the Surface, Surface 2. You're targeting laptops and PCs all with one build. So that's huge for us indies, right? it makes it very easy for us to be able to reach an audience on a multiple platform system with only having to do one build.
That's right.
So that's a very key feature in my eyes. Okay, we looked at a little bit of these. You've got the ability to, use share, search, live tiles. We'll dive a little bit more into depth throughout this process.
Into each one, yeah.
Yeah. Now let's talk a little bit about creating the Windows 8 build. Now you have a few options when it comes to project types. You've got the XAML C++ solution. You've got the XAML C# solution, which is actually the one that we're going to look at today. We'll take a look at how to use the XAML C# solution. You also have the D3D11 C++ solution. That's the DirectX solution. That's what D3D11 stands for, is basically DirectX 11. And then, of course, you've got the D3D11 C# solution. So, depending on what you might have, history in, if you're a C++ programmer, that options are available to you. If if you've got some history in the C# programming language, you'll have a solution there for you.
Yeah, so different approaches that you can take, basically, that you can jump into and come at the same sort of solution from a different point of view.
Okay, yeah. So I'm going to jump in here and I'm going to actually show you guys how to build this solution out in Unity. So I'm going to go ahead and fire up Unity. So now if you can see here, I'm in Unity. I've got my game open. Of course, we've done a few steps ahead of time to make sure that everything is set up so that if we're in Unity or in the Windows platform, it knows what code to run and stuff like that using the preprocessor directives that we looked at and stuff like that. So of course, what I'm going to do first off is I'm going to go up to the file. Oh, it just popped up my little welcome to Unity pop up there. So yeah, you go up to File. You're going to go to Build Settings. And you're going to scroll down until you see the Windows Store app. Once you click that, you'll notice that over here I have a couple of drop-downs. I've got the type, which is where you actually set the solution type. So, of course, you want to use the DirectX C++, the DirectX C#, the XAML C++, or XAML C#. In our case, of course, we're selecting the XAML C#. And then you actually have the SDK that you want to support. Now, I would suggest sticking with 8.1. Obviously, as people upgrade and stuff, they're going to want to have the 8.1 usability in there.
And it's a free upgrade.
It's a free upgrade, yeah. It's not like no one's going to upgrade to it.
It's right there in the store. They see it. They're going to go to it before anything else. Right?
Yeah, so it probably makes a good sense to be targeting that, right? Yeah. So when you select that, I usually do select the 8.1. Now in here you have player settings. So I'm going to go ahead and click my player settings and it'll open up over here in my inspector. I'm just going to bring that over so it's nice and big and easy to see. And you have a few things like obviously the resolution presentation, that's not being shown in here. Icons aren't being shown in here. Splash screen images aren't shown in here. But if you go down to the other settings, there's a few things that we can work with. So you have sprite batching and dynamic batching, which is usual across multiple platforms, right? You have a configuration for your accelerometer. So accelerometer, how often it's going to pull the accelerometer. So you can set it to 15 hertz, which is really slow.
Yeah.
It's only going to pull it every once in a while.
Yeah, that's where am I? As opposed to try to control the game. You wouldn't want 15 hertz.
If you set it at 15 hertz and try to control your character with it, it's going to be a little difficult, right? 30 is a little bit better, but again, it's not generally fast enough when you're trying to control an object via the accelerometer. And of course, 100 hertz if you want very specific precision and you need, that.
And you don't care about battery life.
Yeah, you don't care about battery life, exactly. That's the one you'd want to pick there. Of course, you've got a couple of other things in here, like, you can optimize mesh data, which again is shared across multiple platforms. So if you select this and you're building on other platforms, it's going to take effect on those as well.
That's right.
You can also go into the publishing settings and do a little bit of the work here. So if you wanted to, you could actually set your logo up in here. You could change the package name. You could do a few things. You could change the description, right? You can set the tiles. So
Okay.
like we said, for the live tiles there, you have your logo,
Right.
your wide logo, your small logo. I'm just going to move that there because it keeps popping up. You know, and then you can set things like your short name, you know, show the name. Do you want to show all your logos and stuff in the tiles? Foreground text.
So those are the three tiles that you can have on that start screen of Windows 8.1. There's the large one, the medium, and the small. That's just letting me specify specific custom-sized imagery for that space, basically.
Exactly, and when we get to the live tiles, I'll actually explain the differences between the sizes and stuff like that.
It's similar to the icon spread that you see in some of the other platform settings that they ask for.
Exactly, exactly. And then, of course, you can set your splash screen image here. You know, change the background color, stuff like that. The one thing I will note, though, and I'm sure a lot of Unity developers are aware of this already, but if you're trying to use something, say in here, and you wanted to set a logo, it must be included in your assets.
Right, it has to be in the asset directory, or the folder. That's quite common.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you go here, it'll let you select something outside of the asset directory, but when you go to actually build it, you're going to get an error saying, I don't know what this object is, I don't know where it is.
Yeah. So as with everything else in Unity, if it's an asset, it needs to be in the asset folder for it to come out in your final build.
Exactly. Yeah. And you can also do things like declare your capabilities.
Okay.
Right? So if you're using something like the music library, maybe you want the users to have their ability to play some music inside of your game, you can actually set the capabilities here so that when you go to submit it to the store, it actually knows that, yes, you are using that, and you won't you know, fail certification because you didn't declare that you were using that.
Okay,
right?
so those need to be declared up front so that they run the proper submission tests and so on to verify
exactly,
everything
right.
works out
You have
right.
to you have to declare what you're going to use, you know, depending on what it is inside of your game.
Right.
So yeah, those are things you can do there. Of course, you don't have to set them in here. You can set them inside of your Visual Studio project like other Windows Store apps. So if you wanted to do something like that, you can. So I'm just going to leave them as is for now. And so once you've got all that set up, you know, maybe you've changed your logos, you've changed your splash screen, stuff like that, you can go ahead and click Build. So what it's going to do is it's going to ask me, where do you want to stick these files?
Okay.
Now, you know me, I'm kind of the type of guy that has to have everything in its place. So I make sure that I have my own folder set up. So, of course, I've got a Windows Store build folder set up. So I go ahead and I select that folder. And then when I click it, it's actually going to do the build process. And because, you know, our game's not that complicated, this doesn't take very long, I'll just let it run through really quickly. Yeah.
Only like 3 assets, so.
Yeah, it shouldn't be too bad. So there you go. And then the first thing it does is it opens up on your screen the folder where you put it, right? So it makes it easier for you to find it.
That's nice.
It's kind of nice, right? So this is actually our Visual Studio solution.
Now, could you go back one folder just a second? Not to be confused with those ones that you see down there.
Yes, these solutions are actually your assembly. And I'm going to show you in a few minutes how you can bring that inside of our Visual Studio environment and work on the assembly actually inside of our Visual Studio environment. So, but yeah, don't get those confused. That is the assembly solution. So you actually want to go into whatever folder you saved this in, and that's where you'll find the solution for that specific platform.
All right, okay.
So yeah, I go in here and you'll see I've got my solution. I'm going to go ahead and click that. It's going to fire up Visual Studio for me. And this is actually where we're storing all of our XAML code.
Zoom.
Oh yes, I'll make sure I zoom in here for you. Is that a little better? There we go. Now I'm not going to walk through the code too much right this second because again, when we get back into the slides, we'll be looking at a little bit more. But that's, you know, in general, that's the steps to get this solution up and going. Okay. Right? So, you know, I click the build, I let it run, I open up my solution, and now I'm able to actually go up here and as you can see, I can run it on my local machine. Now, one thing I will note, sometimes it sets it to default ARM. Which, you know, unless you're running on an ARM processor, it's not going to work properly.
That's an interesting computer. Yeah.
Yes. So you're going to want to make sure you go up there and set it to x86 or x64, depending on what you want. I always set it to x86. Seems to work a little easier for me. And then I go ahead and I can click run on my local machine. So it goes through. It's going to build it, and as you can see, we've got a fancy splash screen up there.
Very nice, very nice.
And we'll show you how to implement that later on in a different module. So it goes through that. Now you'll see that I've got an error on there. I don't know if you guys can read that too much, but that's just around the sound card. The device that we're actually working on today doesn't have a sound card that's supported. So I'm just going to go ahead and click that. And there you go. So I'm actually playing the game. Oh, he dodged me. Look at that. So yeah,
Did that make that AI too hard for you there?
Yeah, a little bit.
Come on, Mickey. Come on.
So yeah, that's the game running right there, which is great, right? Didn't take too much. It was pretty simple.
And so that solution, that's where we're going to build in the specific callouts to do share tile or share contracts and to do the live tile updates and those kinds of things, right?
Exactly.
It's not the one that I go to if I want to code in Visual Studio's my entire game.
No, exactly. So you know what? Since you brought that up, I'm actually going to show you how to bring that in.
Okay.
Okay, so up here at the top, you'll see that I have, actually it's already in this one because I've been working on it previously, but I'll show you the steps anyway. If you go up here to your solution where it says Sumo Blocks, and I right-click on it, I can scroll down a little ways, and I'll see that I have Add Existing Project.
Okay.
So if I go ahead and click that, it's going to pop open this dialog, and I can actually select my C# assembly.
Right, and those are those ones that you said, ignore for now, these are not the ones we're talking about.
Exactly,
okay,
right.
so these are the solutions we're looking for.
These are the solutions we're looking for,
there we
yes. It's too bad they didn't see that hand motion
I know.
there. I've already got it, so I can't actually open it. So if you were to do this and it wasn't already open, and you clicked open, it'll actually open the solution and put it up here at the top where you see assembly-C#. So I click the drop down here, you'll see that I have my assets folder, and inside my assets folder I now have access to the scripts folder.
Perfect.
Yes. So if I wanted to, because a lot of times we're working in one IDE, it doesn't make sense to jump from IDE to IDE
right,
constantly,
back and forth all the time.
You might not want to jump from Mono to Visual Studio to Mono to Visual Studio. That can get a little tedious. So if I wanted to make a slight change in my game controller, and of course it's going to bug me about my line endings, but if I wanted to, I could fire this up, and I could actually make some changes inside of my game controller class.
Okay, and then we don't have to go back and make another build and push it back over.
Exactly, right. I don't have to worry about that. But
otherwise I would if I did that in Mono?
Well, actually, what you have to do, and that is a kind of a trick and a little hang-up here, is if I do make any changes inside of my game controller, I do have to then go back into Unity and rebuild the package.
Even if I do it here in Visual Studio?
Yes, and the reason for that is that's the Unity's assembly. Right. So Unity's the one that takes control of building this assembly, right? So you got to make sure that any changes you make, try to keep track of it, go back into Unity and build it, and then you can just Alt-Tab back into your Visual Studio and work on it that way. So yeah, just one thing to keep in mind when you're doing that. So I'm going to jump back into our slides and just see where we're at here.
And somebody has pointed out that there's no, as of yet, x64
no, not yet. So
player.
you do have to set it to x86.
Right.
Yes, that's a good point. Thank you. Okay, so that was a little bit about how to build the Windows Store build. Obviously, it's not a complicated situation. You're just basically
getting it set up like
how we did. We went ahead of time and made sure that anything that we wanted to run on the Windows Store platform was done with either preprocessors or directives or some other form of letting it know.
So it stripped out the code.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just going to take a quick second and just going to, just a very brief overview of what XAML is, because I know a lot of you out there might be thinking, what is this XAML? Right?
It's that thing with the humps you ride in the desert?
No, I think that's a camel.
Oh, careful, they spit.
So, yeah, XAML, it stands for Extensible Application Markup Language.
Okay.
So basically, that's a Microsoft's variant of XML, right?
For describing
a GUI, right? This allows you to define how things look, much like in HTML, but for application as opposed to websites. Okay. Right. So, for instance,
if I was using HTML and PHP, HTML was always your front end, how it looks nice and graphical, and PHP would be all the stuff I do behind the scenes, between page loads on the server side, and then show you another nice, pretty picture. So XAML's that front HTML sort of wrapper to make things look nice, and then there's code behind that does the other side of things.
Exactly, right. So it's basically, defining it's what the things look like inside of your graphical user interface, right? So you can set up things, and in fact, this is how we set up our splash screen. The loading bar that you saw there is we use XAML to use that to You can also do things like a menu system or something
Sure.
like that, very
Yep.
easy buttons, things like that. It makes it very easy and very quick to just throw buttons in there and then use a code behind to actually connect it.
Right.
So I know users out there that are used to using things like WPF and things like that
Sure.
will find this very familiar. It's just different syntax, really. Okay, so that's just a quick overview of what XAML is. I didn't want to leave everybody hanging and going, what is XAML? Right. So yeah, that's just a quick overview. Now we're going to take a quick look at using share, right? So we've seen exactly what the share was and what we meant by share. So now we're going to take a look at how we can actually use this inside of our game. So you'll see up here on the screen that I've got some code, and this is my share text handler. It's an event handler, right, that's going to handle when someone requests to share some text from my game. Now you can set up other things like photos, being able to share photos and other data, but for now I'm just going to focus on text because it tends to be the easiest to implement and the easiest for us in this regard.
Yeah, there's no other assets needed that we have to bother explaining this way.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got your sender, and then of course it passes in arguments, right? So then what we do is we go in here, we create a data request, we assign it the arguments from our passed-in arguments, obviously. So we set that to the e.request, and then we go in here and we set properties like the title. So for us, we've said share high score example. Then we have things like the description. So in here we describe a demonstration that shows how to share a high score. Very simple, right? And then we actually set the text that we want to share. Now in here we've got I just got a new high score in sumo blocks. I won in, and then we actually go and we call the code from our game to actually show this.
Right.
Right. So that's again a way of us connecting back to our game code. So that basically handles it when someone opens up the charm. So if you open up the charm there and click on share, and we're to click on our game, you want to share your high score, that's what this handler is doing. Now this part, this code that I'm showing now, is actually going to do it programmatically inside of the game. Programmatically, thank you, sorry. Programmatically. So inside of your game, this is what will happen, and we're going to show you how to set this up, is when someone actually gets a high score, it's going to go ahead and it's going to open the charm for you and allow you to share that way. So that, a very simple code, and you'll see here we're invoking it on the UI thread, and the reason for this is you want to keep what you're doing separated, right? So if it's something that requires you to be doing it on the UI, you want to call it on the UI thread. As opposed to if it was something that you wanted to do inside the game, you're going to want to call it on the game thread. So what we've done here is we've invoked this on the UI thread, and we've said, just pop open that share charm for us. And then it goes back to our share text handler and actually calls what's inside there, and that's what sets it all up.
Right. Okay.
So, why don't we go ahead and demo that? And because you're so good at beating the game, why don't you go ahead?
Oh, now I get to.
Yeah, well, you designed the AI, right? So
I see.
I'll let you you beat the sumo there.
Let's make sure that I have a Windows build here ready to go. I believe I do. There we go. Looks like it. And I've also moved the loading bar because I didn't like it in the middle.
Yeah, we'll show you how to do that later on. He just gets ahead of it. He didn't like it being right in the middle there, so he moved it.
It's extreme programming while giving a demo. It's all good. What could go wrong? All right, so here we go. Just playing along here. And we'll just... Well, I guess first I should demonstrate if he beats me. I lose.
You lose.
Nothing happens.
No, it doesn't show a share. You didn't get a high score.
That's right. Didn't get a high score because I lost. How could I get a high score? However, if I beat him here, hopefully, let's see. There he goes.
This is why I'm letting you do it.
Oh. Come on, get out.
This goes back to making your AI too good.
There you go. Oh, no. So, yes, it can be a little bit difficult sometimes. I'm going to bring him out this way instead. See if he'll be a little more obedient and lose. No, fine. I'll trick you. I'll run over here. No. Yes! Oh,
you lost. You went out too quick.
I got out of the way. Okay, one more try then. Also seem to have some input lag on this monitor here. There we go. And got him.
Oh, you won. There you go. So now you'll see right off the bat, it pops out this share charm. Okay. And this is actually, now it's saying you can send it by email, but if you had Twitter installed,
Sure.
or you had, you know,
They would just appear
Facebook,
right
they would
here?
just automatically appear there.
Okay.
And then you could select which one you want. Now, if you
Right.
clicked mail, I don't know if the mail client's set up for you on this
No,
computer.
I didn't set it up.
Oh, okay, so if you did click that though and it was set up, it would pop open a message and it would already stub in
Right.
the message for you. It would say, hey, I just beat the high score on sumo blocks and I did it in X amount of time, which
Okay.
is that code that we showed you in the share handler.
And of course, if I wanted to, I could send you a screenshot.
Yes, you could. You could send me a screenshot right there, right?
Nice.
So,
and
yeah.
there, for example, is the description that we saw that you set up, right?
Exactly.
Saying that, you know, it shows that how to do this and so on and so on. That's where that information goes.
Yeah. So as you can see, it didn't take a lot of code,
No.
but we got that set up, and it's fairly easy, and it's an awesome feature to add to your game, right? I love sharing my high scores, posting it on Facebook, and bragging about how quickly I beat the sumo and with this crazy AI that you've developed.
It's not that difficult. Everybody seems to have problems with it. No. Oh. All right.
So yeah, that's basically share in a nutshell, right? So the next thing we're going to look at is handling the screen size changes.
Okay.
All right, so like I said before, this is a must when you're building for the Windows Store. You must have some way of handling the screen size change.
Okay.
Now, luckily in Unity 4.3, they've added this new namespace, WSA, Windows Store application,
Okay.
that has a bunch of classes built into it that allow you to do some of these features. So the one that they added was an on-Windows size change handler.
That's good. Yep.
So that's really good. And all we do is we set up an event handler
okay.
so that it knows that when someone changes the screen size, we want to call this event. And what we've done here is all we said is if your width is less than 500,
You're getting very excited about this.
I'm super excited. If your width is less than 500 pixels, we're going to pause the game.
Okay, there's not enough room to see what's going on.
Yeah, exactly,
basically.
right? Like, once you get to that size, in our sumos, they're fairly big sumos. Well, 8-bit sumos anyway, right? So, it's going to make it a little hard to play the game if it's on a tiny little screen, right?
Right.
So one of the things that you want to do is handle this. Now, we've gone about pausing our game, which is one simple way of doing it, but it might not be the best way for your game, right?
Okay.
I've seen a lot of games in the store do a lot of cool things. Like, for instance, there's games out there that if you go below a certain size, they're going to actually pop open a minigame.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's really cool, right? So now all of a sudden you're playing a different game inside of your game, right?
While still
still
doing whatever needs your attention.
yeah,
on the other side.
checking the important emails from your boss while playing the latest version of whatever. Right?
Okay.
So it's pretty cool. As well as I've seen them do, like, for an RPG, maybe it's a quest log.
Oh, okay. So
Right,
I
so
pop out.
You pop out, and now all of a sudden you've got just very limited amount of room. So now I'm going to say, okay, just pop open the quest log and let them read through the quest log or something like that, right? There's a million things you can do with this, right?
That way I can continue to chat on the phone or whatever, or while I'm
maybe you're
looking at
Skyping with
whatever.
your significant other,
Sure.
and they're
Requires a little
interrupting
more-
your epic quest, and suddenly now you've got to snap this and talk to them while still keeping an eye on what your quest has to do.
Gotcha.
Yes. So, or as programmers, we don't get outside very much. So maybe one thing you want to do is have your game snapped while you're looking at weather reports, right?
That's
so
true.
You're like, I don't get outside very much. I'm going to check and see what the weather's like.
Get the virtual sun rays.
Yeah, the
down
virtual
on you
sun
while
rays
you're
right
doing
from your monitor just pouring on you, so you get some of those vitamins that we're so lacking as programmers.
I'm not that white.
Did they have to use a filter?
No.
Yeah. Okay, so let's take a quick look at how, first of all, we do this, right? And I'll show you exactly what happens when we do this inside of our game. So I'm going to jump back into the code real quick here. Go into my Visual Studio. Since I have everything open, I'm going to do this in Visual Studio from now on. Makes it a little easier.
Yep.
So I'm going to open up my Window Gateway class. And of course, it's got it all buttoned up there. But inside of our Windows Gateway class, this is where we're setting the event handler, right? So again, this talks about being able to pass that information back and forth.
Right, which I demonstrated earlier.
Exactly. So what we've done here is we said, if we're running on the Windows Store platform, we're going to run this certain line of code. And this code says, you know, create an event handler that on a window size change, I'm going to call this function. We scroll a little bit down towards the bottom, and you'll actually see the function that says window size change. It takes a width and a height that we pass in, right? And it says, you know, if my width is less than 500, pause. If it's greater than 500, unpause. So if someone, you know, makes it small and then they pull it back out, it'll unpause, right? That's very simple if you think about it. That didn't take a lot of code to create this.
No.
Right? And so I'm going to actually go ahead and go into the game. Here, actually, I can just launch it this way. And I'll actually show you what happens. And of course, I haven't moved my loading bar yet. I didn't get ahead.
It's experience. It's fine.
Yeah. Of course, so now, you know, you see the game's playing here. And if I wanted to, I can grab this, and I can pull it over to the side. Now, oh. Of course, live coding, you always get something, right? Oh, I remember I was having this issue on this box before. Do you want to try and fire it on yours? It's something to do with the hardware on this one.
Well, I probably have the same thing. But
yeah, you're using pretty much the same hardware, so you might have the same issue.
I will verify whether or not. But either way, it paused.
It did pause. But it was a breakpoint pause, so that's not exactly what we were going for.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Actually, let me make sure. All right, we got it running. Let me see if I... Oh, and I threw it right into the charm instead of siding it.
Did you get the same thing?
Yep,
yeah, you got the same thing. Okay. So, you know, it's not a live event unless something breaks. So, you know, I'll run it again, and I think I should be able to remove that warning.
Actually, you know what? There. I beat him good.
So I'm just going to rerun it and see if I can get it to throw that error, and I'll just tell it to ignore that error for now so we can see it.
You'll stomp on his head.
Oh, is that what's happening?
That. Because it'll do a big physics time step likely. We can try.
So again, not best practices the way we've set it up, because obviously you want to make sure you're pausing all the movement and stuff like that when you grab, but let's see, it'll throw that error now. I'll say, don't worry about this. Hit continue.
Oh,
there we go.
There it goes.
So there you go. Now I'm paused, right? So if I'm this size, I'm paused. As soon as I pull it back out from this size, it's going to pop back in and let me play again.
There you go.
So yeah, basic setup. Unfortunately, you know, hardware issues. You know, famous words. It was working well last night. So that's just, you know, an easy way to handle this. Of course, you probably want to do a little bit more in there as opposed to just pausing the game. You know, make it fun for the user. Give them a mini game. Give them, you know, some sort of input. You know, don't just say I paused, right? Yeah. It will pass certification, but you know, it's not very fun. So
or at least display a message. And
yeah, at least display a message and show them that, you know, something's occurred there.
That's right. Put it in the proper pause state so they know that it's not just frozen and not going to respond, because then some people will just close it.
Exactly.
Right? You don't want that kind of miscommunication there between the user and your program.
Yeah, you want to give your user feedback, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to see if I can get my slides back up here. So of course that was just, you know, a really easy way to implement screen size handling. It's something that you have to do to pass certification. So, you know, definitely take a look at it again.
Basically, that's the bare minimum.
That's the bare minimum, right? You have to have something like, you know, pausing it is obviously the bare minimum. But again, do something fun with it. All right, so let's talk about handling Windows visibility change. And when I mean, or what I mean by visibility changes, if someone was to say, like, minimize your game, right, or open up another application that takes the full view, and your game is no longer in the view of the user, right? That's what we mean by visibility change. Again, this code is very, very basic. All we're saying is we create an event handler, right? If the game is visible and our game has been initialized, right? If you look down here, I've got if the game is visual, and I'm initialized, all I'm going to do is pause the game, right? And I'm using Unity's built-in pause function as opposed to mine.
Yep.
So basically all it's saying is, Unity, don't pause this if we're visible. On the next slide, you'll see that we have the else to the if that says if we are initialized, but we're not visible, right? So else if we're not visible, go ahead and pause. It's that simple, right? And basically what you're doing is you're making it so that if your player does minimize your game or changes state so it's not visible, the game's not running in the background and the sumo's pushing him out. So he comes back in and suddenly he's lost the game. That's not very fun, right? So you want to make sure that you're at least handling this in some regard so that if they do minimize your game or it loses focus, that it is being handled in some way, right? So I'll just show you quickly how that works. Exit this and jump back into our code. Okay, so back here in our code, we set this up in the main page. But I'm going to just go ahead and launch it because the code that you see on the slides is literally the code that we put in, so it's not very much to go through in that regard. But I'll just show you exactly what I mean by how it works. And there we go, we're loaded. I'm going to go ahead and click it. So I'm in the middle of playing. I'm just going to move over here so you can see like we are in the middle of playing. I'm going to make sure he doesn't push me yet. Whoa, God. This is so quick. All right, so now I'm going to make it lose focus, right? One way I can do that, I made it win, so that's not going to help.
Too slow.
Yeah.
Hit enter.
Yeah. I forgot we changed that. I'm like hitting any key and it's not working. Okay, so one way I could do that is I could just hit the Windows key and now I don't have focus.
That's true.
So we're right in the middle, right? He was pushing on me, I was pushing on him. And now if I go back into my game, we're right where we left off. You can tell by the timer, no times.
So it was suspended and it stayed
It's suspended and it saves the state where it was. Very simple, an easy way to get around it. Oh,
you missed your chance.
I know, I was too slow.
And
then he beats me. I'm good at making games, not so much playing them. But yeah, so that's just the basic way of handling that. And it's something that you should do, honestly. Your users are going to get pretty annoyed quickly if every time they lose focus and they come back in,
the game restarts.
The game restarts, or they've lost, or they've lost that epic item that they worked so hard to get. So yeah, definitely handle that.
You don't want to cause that strife in the home place just because somebody was asking you a question. No.
Exactly right. So that's that basically takes care of building for the Windows Store platform.
Okay.
Right? We took a look at how to implement share.
That's right.
Which is one of the really cool features on the Windows platform. We also took a look at how to handle the screen size changes.
Yep.
Despite the error there, as well as we looked at how to handle visibility changes.
Right.
Right. And while we were at it, I also showed you can import your assembly and work on it right inside of Visual Studio. So we covered a fair bit in that module.
Yep, that's right. And then next, I guess we're gonna have a meal break.
Yeah, we'll take about an hour meal break. We'll come back and then we'll dive into using the Windows Phone and building for the Windows Phone, and then we'll follow that up with live tiles and splash screens.
Yeah, live tiles. That'll be a lot of fun.
That'll be a lot of fun.
Okay.
All right, so see you in about an hour.